gonna start with a clean wheel head, and we've got our centered ball of clay, and you wanna make sure that this ball of clay is as kind of round as possible. You can do this when your wheel's spinning, or you can turn your wheel down or off in my case, and you wanna slam this thing on the center of the wheel, and you wanna throw it down. And that's actually why this is called wheel throwing, because I just threw the clay on the wheel. So I'll turn my wheel on, and you wanna go, you wanna go with a bit of speed, but you don't wanna go out of control. So for those of you who are on the electric wheels, don't go like full floor, all out, because it will be too fast. And this piece of clay may fly off the wheel. I mean, it's gonna make it actually harder for you to center. Those on your kick wheels, you're gonna wanna kick as hard as you can, okay? So I'm just gonna get water on my hands. I'm gonna get this wet so that this is sliding around. Most of you have splash pans, which are gonna catch most of the water around there. Those can be removed and cleaned out and washed out. I don't throw with one here. I don't actually throw with one in my studio at all. I try and be a little bit conscious about how much water I'm using, but when you're beginning, that's a little bit hard to do. So I will try not to splatter you all with clay, but I can make no promises. Okay, so I've got this clay wet. The first thing I'm gonna do, and when we're centering, we're using the meaty parts of our hands, not our fingers. I'm gonna lock my elbows into my body, and while I'm standing, I'm kind of coming at this with a cantilever from my waist. When you're sitting at your wheel, you're gonna bend from your hips and you're gonna lock your body in. You might actually be able to lock your elbows onto your knees or the side of your splash pans. But you wanna have this strong wheel throwing stance so that you can be in charge of this clay, okay? So first thing I'm gonna do is just from the top, push down a little bit. And it's still bumping around in my hands. I might come with my finger and seal it right here onto the clay, onto the wheel. You can do that with your sponge as well. And what I wanna do is I wanna make sure that this is actually gonna be stuck to the wheel, okay? What you don't want is a lot of water underneath your clay before you throw it down. If you have a really like wet, slippery surface, your clay will not stick. So that's why you wanna use a damp sponge to clean it off, okay? So I've got this thing stuck, but you can see how it's all wobbling around. That means it's off center. And to get it on center, we need to push on the X and Y axis from the side and from the top to get it to be right in the center of this wheel head. And so the first thing I'm gonna do is, again, get this a little bit wet, and I'm gonna do a process called coning. So I'm gonna start with the kind of the bottom inside of my hands on either side, and I'm going to, I'm just resting with my fingers. I'm gonna push in, and I'm trying to open them up so you can see what's happening to the clay. I'm pushing in, and I'm getting this clay to rise up, and then I'm coming up very slowly with this clay. It gets a little sticky, so I'm gonna stop and get a little bit more moisture. I'm gonna take my sponge and push in at the bottom to clean that up. I'm gonna lose a little bit of clay along the way. Just pop that into your water bowl. And so now I have this cone, which is still a little bit wobbly. And this coning process also helps to wedge on the wheel a little bit, so it helps it get a little more under control. So now I'm going to take my my left hand and push down into my right. You can take your right hand and push down into your left, whatever you'd like to do. So I'm pushing on the side with my right hand and from the top with my left hand. And as I push down, if I just push with my top hand, what happens? Right, it gets like a mushroom kind of thing going on. So I need to push in with my side hand in order to keep that, kind of in check, right? So now you can see that I'm pushing with my side hand too, and it's a bit of, I'm pushing more with my top hand, and I'm pushing with my whole body. I'm not out here just pushing with my hands. I'm coming in with my whole body. My arms are tight to my body. And once you get down in this kind of half grapefruit doorknob shape, then I can push a little bit more, and I'm pushing back even stronger with my right hand. And what I'm looking to do is really get this thing a little bit more under control. And when I'm touching the clay, I'm touching the clay from the center down to the side, okay? So you'll notice that my hand was kind of on the inside here. It wasn't right in the center. If I push down right in the center, you're gonna get a divot, and you're gonna be competing with yourself with the power from both sides of the wheel. So we just want our power to come from one side, one of the, halves of this shape. So it's better, right? It's not as wiggly as it was before. I'm gonna clean up that edge. Always clean up this edge so that you can actually grab this clay, because we're gonna cone it up and down 3 times, okay? So I've got more water. I'm gonna come in again, by pushing in that track, it means I can grab it with the sides of my hand. I'm gonna push in. I connect my thumbs up here on top, and I'm starting to kind of push down with my thumbs as I push up from the bottom. And then I'm lifting this clay into the shape of my thumb, and that's helping it be this nice rounded shape. If you're having trouble getting and you're having a divot start to happen in there, it might be because you're not pushing down as you pull up, which seems a little counterintuitive, but it's what works. So I'm gonna get a little bit more water. I'm gonna push in here at the side to be able to grab that clay. And then I can come up again, and I can slowly come up. Now, when I bring my hands up this cone, you'll notice that you can see these throwing marks that are kind of right on top of each other. And that's because I'm waiting for the clay to make a whole rotation. And every rotation of the wheel, then I can come up. So I want to come in contact with every part of the clay. If you're doing this and you start to get something that looks like this, okay, right? What happened? I came too fast, and then you can see a spiral because that's the path where my hand took. Okay, so what I need to do is grab this clay and get it back under control and compress it. And again, I'm pushing at the top and stabilizing with the side, trying to keep my wrist straight, and then I'm pushing it down into that doorknob shape. Now, I'm going to carefully release. I want to relax my pressure and carefully release, because if I'm pushing really hard and then I let go, what just happened? It's off center again, okay? That's because I just let go. So I can be pushing and giving that hard pressure and then relax my hands and then let go. And there's still a little bit of a wobble there, but it's not nearly as bad as it was before. So I'm going to cone this up one more time. And you will get to a point where you don't need to cone as many times, or you might have to cone a few more. You know, it's one of these things that takes practice. This will be the hardest part of learning how to throw is center. Okay, so if you can stick with me, it's going to take like 2 weeks of really intense practice to kind of get this down so that we can start to really do some things. Okay, so I've got it up into my cone. I've got those parallel throwing lines. I've come up nice and slow. And now I can grab this clay and I can push it back down. So this is pretty on center, okay? There's a little bit of a wobble that I can feel, so I'm just gonna grab the clay, and this is where I switch to left-handed because I'm stronger on this side. You can do this on the right-hand side or the left, but I'm gonna come in on one side vertical and the other side horizontal, and I'm gonna give this some really strong compression, and I'm just trying to squeeze the clay. My pinky over here is not doing anything, it's just the side of my hand. So I've squeezed this clay right on. I'm gonna carefully release. Okay, and that's on center. So everybody, come on over, get your hand wet, and place your hand on this. I want you to feel what it feels like to have something on center so you know what you're shooting for. Okay, it's not like, well, it shouldn't be like, it shouldn't feel bumpy or wobbly. Yeah, okay. Okay, so come on back because I'm gonna show you, you're gonna practice this. And once you get this down, I'm gonna show you a couple things that I want you to be doing with this clay. Okay. Oh yeah. So, once you get this centered ball of clay, what we're gonna do is we are gonna flatten it out a little bit, and we're gonna make a donut. All right? And if some of you just get to making donuts by Monday, that's fine. But I'm also going to show you the next step of kind of pinching that donut and making it into a wall a little bit. And some of you might be able to get to that space, okay? Some of you might just be really struggling with the centeredness, okay? But I want you to come in every day between now and Monday if you can, even just for an hour, all right? I will be here all day Friday. I don't even think I have meetings on Friday, so I'm here. I'm up in my office. If you come in and you're like, holy shit, I can't do this, I'm having a really hard time, come grab me. I will come. The best way that I can help you is watching what your hands are doing so I can help correct, okay? I am also in tomorrow morning. I think I have a meeting from 10 to noon, but I'll be here at 9. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, my son comes to school with me, so his name's Harrison. So he'll be around, but I am also available for you guys on Tuesday, Thursdays for office hours. And office hours for wheel throwing is really being like, hey Steph, can you come downstairs and help me? okay? And if you don't mind the distraction of a tiny human running around, then all the merrier. He's a pretty sweet guy. Okay, so you're gonna get to your center ball of clay, and then you are going to press down even more, still pushing in a bit from the side, but what I want you to do is try and make a disc that's about 1 inch tall. Okay, carefully release, so I just push down, still pushing in at the side to keep it on center. If I just push it on the top, it's gonna knock it off center. So that's about where we're gonna be at. And then you're going to take your thumbs and find the center, kind of cradle this, find the center, and then slowly push down, and you're gonna go all the way down to the wheel head. Okay, so I met the wheel head, so we're no floor. Sometimes your fingers kind of feel like they get sucked down when that happens. That's fine, you can stop and get a little bit more water. And here's when I'm gonna take my sponge, and I'm just gonna push this little top part down and combine it right back into the donut of clay, okay? So now I have this donut of clay, and the next step is gonna be grabbing the inside and trying to pull it towards me to make this donut a little wider. So I'm gonna take my fingers on the inside, and I like to take my sponge on the top, and I'm grabbing this, and I'm pinching. I'm pushing down a little on top with my sponge because as I bring it out, it's gonna wanna rise up. And I'm just trying to bring this a little bit wider. I'm opening up this donut and bringing it a little bit wider. I can take my sponge and compress the top and just roll it over. So I'm supporting on either side with my left hand, and I'm pressing on my right. Now that this is open, everything has to be happening on the right-hand side of the wheel. Okay, because you want the clay coming into your hands. If my hands are over here, you just saw how my sponge wants to kick back like that. My fingers are gonna do the same thing, and they're gonna get stuck, and it's gonna make it really off center. So if you get to this point and you start to be struggling, make sure your hands are on the right-hand side of your wheel, okay? For those of you working right hand. So I can be here in the front, and I can be over here. I don't want to be over here. I don't want to be back here, okay? I want a hand kind of on the inside and a hand on the outside. And now I've got this kind of rounded donut. Pinching on the side with my fingers and pressing on the top, okay? So if you get to that point, great. If you're feeling really comfortable about making donuts, you can start to pinch. So my fingers are on the inside, and my sponge or fingers are on the outside, and I'm just gonna pinch into each other, and you can see what's happening is it's rising up. Okay, and I'm basically just pushing this clay into the side of my hand. I'm not moving my fingers up and down, I'm just pushing them together to basically like a brace to make a short collar, and then I'm gonna support at the top and compress the rim a bit with my hands and my sponge. So I'm gonna get all of the water off, inside and outside. If you're working and all of a sudden you feel like you have a pond on the inside of it, grab your sponge, remove the water, because the water will actually weaken the clay. Actually, I will leave some ribs out too. And then we can take the rib, again on the right-hand side, on a 30-degree angle. And I'm just removing the slip. I'm gonna do the same thing on the inside. It's gonna make it easier to pick up. Okay, so I've got to remove the slip. Then you can take the wooden knife, holding it just like a pencil, and I'm just gonna come in on the side, and I have to use my other hand to push back because it's gonna wanna come towards you. So I'm just going in and making a bit of an undercut right there, okay? So just make a little undercut. This is gonna, again, make it easier to pick up. Okay, just clean that off. I'm gonna do the same thing on the inside, which you can't see, but I'm just using my tool and pushing it in. Okay, and then I'm gonna turn my wheel off. And can I grab that wire tool? Okay, so now I'm gonna take the wire tool, I'm gonna wrap it around my fingers like dental floss, and then I'm gonna take my thumbs and push it into the wheel head. It needs to be flat and straight, and I'm gonna pull it towards myself, okay? If it's like this, and it comes through, it's gonna cut like that. So you want it to be tight. Sometimes it makes a little indent on your finger.